to Naria's Mastermind. I am here with an extraordinary guy, and I'm excited to present him to you guys. But I want to just start off the podcast episode today by setting the presence of that this is Mental Health Awareness Month. And so it's a topic that both Michael and I are very passionate about. And just bringing light to that and just wanting to be intentional about anybody who's out there that feels like they're alone or they feel like they're not in a good place, that you're not alone. That's the furthest from the truth. And there are so many resources and people that love you. And I think Michael and I are two of those people. And so we're serious when we say, like, if you're ever feeling not in a good place and you just need somebody to talk to, the both of us would be extremely open to being of help. And I know I just kind of threw Michael into that, but
volunteered me.
I volunteered him.
I am definitely there. Yeah.
But I know his heart, so I know he would be okay with that. But without further ado, I want to welcome Michael, Alisa to the show. Welcome today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for coming over.
Here.
Yeah. So, Michael, I met him in a really accidental way. I was out running at Sugar House Park last summer, and I ran across this group of people that were working out, and you guys were having a blast. There was just loud music, these huge speakers, and I just was so attracted to the energy. I'm like, what is going on down there? And so I walked down there and I'm like, what is this all about? And they're like, oh, it's Core Revive. And these people just started this workout and trainings. And at the time I needed more of that. And so that's how our conversation began. And you kind of shared a little bit of your story of why you chose to step into this space. And ever since then, I've come to more of your classes. I should go more. You kick my ass anytime that I'm there. They are so good, you guys.
Without me.
But they seriously are so good. And but I think what attracted me, the most important part of what has always attracted me to you, Michael, and your energy is your big heart. And I can just sense how much you care about others, how you really want to help other people. And so I'm going to turn the mic over to you. Perhaps you can share a little bit of your story because it's really incredible.
Yeah, I love people, and I saw this quote once, and I was like, oh, that totally applies to me. It says, "There's no such thing as strangers, only friends who I haven't met yet." And there really is something about everyone that I genuinely like. So this has been a perfect space for me to be in, to connect with people, to meet a lot of new people. I've loved it for that reason. And I got into this space for the fact that I was going through depression, anxiety. I had a great job. I'd kind of gone through some different jobs and worked my way up to being a director at a software company. And I was so unhappy. I was miserable. And I started to do some reflection. Well, let's rewind. Before I got to that point where I was doing some self-reflection, I felt so deeply lost, or like I was drowning almost, that there didn't seem to be a way out. I didn't know what was the first step even to getting out of this space that I was in. Not the workspace. I mean, this head space that I was in. And my first step ended up being cutting out alcohol. I sobered up. I was drinking maybe 6 nights a week, heavily, but it was all social. Right? Yeah. And so I was rationalizing, thinking, oh, I'm having quote unquote fun with my friends.
It's like the questions they ask you, do you socially drink? And you're like, yeah, but it's a daily thing. So
yeah. Yeah, I'm very good at it. So yeah, I was socially drinking, and I was doing everything, which now I recognize to be numbing, to not face what was causing me pain. And so by cutting out alcohol and then cutting out drug use, which I was also doing to numb at the time, and all the other distractions that I had, kind of sought out unknowingly just so that I didn't need to face reality. Was as I started cutting those out and was looking in the mirror and saw myself, I didn't like what I saw, and it was so uncomfortable, so painful, and I felt that urge to seek out temporary, quick comfort again, alcohol, drugs, whatever. And luckily, I had a life coach at the time who helped me kind of stay away from those things and just sit there in that uncomfortable feeling, looking in the mirror at myself, and
so
work
powerful.
through stuff. It was so good for me. So working through stuff. Some friends left at the time. Turned out we were just drinking buddies.
Yeah.
So that was also difficult. And for anyone that has a lot of drinking buddies and is in a similar phase in their life that I was in, you might lose some friends when you make those life changes. However, it's good. It's a good thing. Take care of yourself. That was something that I wasn't doing at the time.
When did you feel you started losing parts of you? Like, because you were at this point and you were like, whoa, I don't like this man sitting in front of the mirror. But have you ever like kind of pinpointed this like specific moment where you're like, oh, this is where it started?
It's interesting. I think that there was never, I grew up very religious in a very religious household. And I grew up as a football player. So those are both of my identities that I was tied so closely to. After college, I was no longer Michael Alisa, the football player. And I had distanced myself from the religion that I grew up with. And so I had this identity crisis. I didn't know who I was, and so there wasn't ever like a losing my identity. I just never had really identified who I was, remove the clothing, so to speak, of being a football player or your religious ties, like those tribes that we tend to tie ourselves to. And who are you? I never worked through that. And so when those two things were out of my life, I spiraled and didn't know who I was, had identity crisis and a faith crisis. And so coming out of this, fast forwarding after college, fast forwarding to that moment when I realized I'm so deep down. I remember having suicidal thoughts, like, this is me. Like, how? I remember being afraid I knew where I keep my handgun. I was afraid to look in the drawer. Like I just didn't even want to open that drawer, even if there was something else I needed to get in there. That scared me because, that's something that I had heard about, but why am I feeling that? That's so wild to me. So that's when I realized, okay, something's off. And that was when I started to identify myself and figure out who I am. Yeah. And I don't know if Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle has some good stuff about our ego mind versus you. You are not actually your mind. I loved that book. That helped me with a lot of my self-talk, a lot of the voices that we hear and the things that we say to ourselves, and realizing
I call it the chatter.
The chatter. Yeah, quieting the chatter. That, like, if a buddy were to do that to you or talk to you like that, you just either ignore them or
you would never be friends with that person.
Yeah, tell them to stop that. Yeah. That's not true. But we think it's coming from ourselves, so we think we have to listen up. I don't know. It's interesting. Anyway, so I was going through all of those changes and started working out. And that was something that luckily I had a little foundation in that from growing up in football. And I remembered, okay, well, that always kind of made me feel better. So I started taking care of my physical health. I was really unhealthy. 6 nights a week of drinking a lot of alcohol.
That'll do it too. Yeah.
That'll get you pretty far off track. So,
there's one thing to be fit to, and then to be healthy.
Yeah.
Right. And it sounds like you were just like, I'm going to start with maybe both, cutting
Mhm.
down on the alcohol and working out. Did it happen simultaneously or?
Well, yeah. So I went. I still have a drink every now and then.
Yeah.
Well, right now I'm doing the 75 hard
Yeah, that's
program,
cool.
but uh, at that time I needed to completely reset my habits.
Yeah.
So I went 100 days, 110 to be precise, without alcohol. And yeah, I realized that. Well, here's the thing. I was confused. I thought that just getting physically healthy would help make me happy,
Mhm.
or would be the key. And I got very healthy. Turns out having a six pack is not all you need to be happy. Yeah. So this has been like a
I
full
love
learning
it.
process of what is happiness, and
Mm.
how do we, what tools do we use to feel happy in life. And I'm reading this book, Naval Ravikant.
I love that you're a reader, by the way.
Oh,
I'm always,
well, it's funny. I'm a reader now, but
you've become one.
yeah, during these years of my life that were just like numbing. No, I never picked up a book, yeah, ever. And I would do Audible every now and then, but yeah, something about reading from a book, I feel like I ingested a lot better. Anyway, so yeah, being fit was not the key to happiness. I think it is a piece. Once I became fit, then I realized, okay, this isn't the end all be all. I still have moments of not feeling peace, and I still experience anxiety, and I still feel down every now and then, which is all part of the human experience, but it was less than before. Yeah. And so then I continued my self-discovery, I guess, introspection, and started looking at mental health. Okay, how can and I started reading books like The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And
Eckhart Tolle is a genius master, so definitely recommend his books.
Oh yeah, so good. I still haven't read Good Earth. Everyone tells me to read that one, so that's on my
list.
my book list. Yes. And spiritual health. After leaving my religion, I had totally shut the door on all things spiritual. For the fact that that was such a big part of my world, that once I stopped believing in that, then I thought that anything in that realm was also just hogwash, which now I do not believe.
Yeah.
And going back to my love for people, it's just for me personally. I know everyone has different life experiences and different beliefs, but just the energy that I know that word's overused, but just the energy and the connection that I feel with other people and the people that I love, there has to be something. And I think I hit a point where I would rather believe that there was something than just kind of draw the line and say, I believe there's not. I don't know. And nobody knows anything, but for me, it feels,
the more you
feels
learn,
better.
The more you learn, the more you realize you don't know.
Yeah, exactly. But it feels better to believe and to hope for there being a higher power or something else out there.
I feel like it's an emotion.
Bigger than ourselves.
It's like an emotion you feel internally of, okay, this does feel light and true for me. And it may not for the person next to you, but to me, it's like, that's how you stay true to your true identity, is really listening to that inner self. Because I feel like that inner self, not the chatter, the real voice, is really connected to a higher power. And so that's why meditation and all these things come into play, because you can quiet the mind so you can really connect to your higher self. And when you're able to do that, like that emotion and that feeling of peace and serenity that you were seeking, that to me is your guidance of, okay, this is true for me. And that's my belief.
Yeah. And that, so meditation and thinking through those things, that was something that I hadn't been doing either. So part of my fitness journey was going on walks, and that became my opportunity to kind of meditate. I would just walk around my neighborhood at
Yeah.
night and let my mind go. And something about walking, I didn't have my mind wasn't overthinking. It wasn't stressing about what I'm going to do in the future and like hitting my goals. And it wasn't stressing about all the mistakes I've made in the past. I was able to stay present, which I've also found has helped with my happiness, is being present. You know, not stressing about the past or the future too much. So.
That is so beautiful. First of all, I want to honor you for your vulnerability and sharing something that, just some dark moments there. And but I really want to honor you, and I think it's incredible that you're willing to share that piece of your story. I know it's not easy sometimes, and especially when your identity, first it was a religious identity, and then you're this football player, you probably received all of that significance, and perhaps, and I don't know, but perhaps you felt like you had to show up in a certain way and be this certain person.
Yeah.
And so for you to break it down and say, these are the struggles and these have been my challenges, as I'm sure many of our listeners can relate to some extent. I just think it's very, I'm in awe of your willingness to share the truth.
Yeah,
because that's how you actually will connect and help people.
Right. And I feel that sharing the truth is also a huge part of being happy. Keeping
the truth will set you free.
The truth will set you free. Keeping secrets or holding things in or not speaking your truth, what I've found personally has caused me more anxiety and more stress and more sadness. So the more transparent I have been in life, through this journey, I've found, just the happier I am. And being real with people, not needing to. I feel like when you're holding something back or aren't being completely transparent, there's something in your mind that is just always aware of that. And for example, I used to always, when I went through that little 100-day no alcohol phase, at the end of that, I asked each one of my family members if I could meet with them. This is just a fun little story, but I asked each one of them if I could meet with them, took my sisters to lunch. I flew out to Michigan where my mom was on vacation and met with her, and called my dad. I talked to my brothers, and I had the same conversation with all of them. I told them exactly how I had been living my life in the past couple of years since college, what I had been going through, and told them I loved them, and told them that the reason why I hadn't told them up until now was I was afraid that they would judge me, and that I'm telling them now because I felt distant from them. Just in my own head, I felt distant from them, thinking this lie that if they knew who I really was, they wouldn't love me anymore.
Wow.
And that was so liberating to have that conversation with all of them. And it was unanimous across the board. Yeah, they still love you.
Yeah.
And they were grateful that I told them. It was just this thing I had in my mind.
So beautiful.
And so that was a good lesson for me too. That the people who love you will still love you. And being real, being authentic, that does help towards happiness.
And everything that you face to become comfortable in your discomfort of the journey. It's like once we can sit with our own just heaviness and pain, because that's what I feel most people avoid, right? They're not ready to face the pain. They're not ready to heal. They're not ready to face the trauma, right? Because it's like, I want to avoid it. Yeah. I don't want to go there. But it's not for the weak. Like, you have to be brave enough to face it. And like when you are sitting there in those moments of, pain and suffering, and you're going through it and actually facing it, what lies on the other side of that is like indescribable.
Yeah, I just posted about this on Instagram, which I should get on Twitter, but Instagram has become my form of expression on social media. But I talked about the eye in the sky in college football. You know what that is?
No.
So the eye in the sky is the cameras that they have set up.
Okay.
They film all of our practices, even our warm-ups, and they film all of our games. And the saying is, the eye in the sky doesn't lie. And the reason they said is because you can think you had a great game, you think you have a bad game, but the reality is all on film. So
yeah.
So you might watch film and realize that you didn't do as poorly as you did, or you did a lot better than
yeah.
you know, or you were not good at all and you thought you had a great game. But when we would watch film, you'd sit in a room with all your peers like this one, and they'd put up the game film on the big screen, and in slow motion, high definition, watch all of your mistakes and errors and fumbles and drop passes and false steps and even low effort plays. You know, if, let's say the ball is on the other side of the field, but you're kind of just like jogging there.
Yeah.
They'd point you out, and you'd watch. Their whole team would see you doing that. And we'd usually hurry over, you know, the big runs or the big passes or, you know, all the big plays that you had. But it wasn't to beat yourself up. It wasn't to make you just feel shitty. The reason why we did it was to get better. So once it was humbling, and once you got over yourself, then you would look forward to watching this film, because ultimately you just wanted to get better. And I realized in my life, it was painful and very humbling, but looking in that mirror was so necessary. Otherwise, you know, I would have never been able to make those changes that were preventing me from being happy. I would have stayed in that dark place, and who knows if I'd even still be here, you know? And so I look back at those college days, same thing. Had I never, let's say I'd shied away from watching film ever, then I would never become a better football player. So same thing in life. Like, again, going back to being real with yourself, and also not taking yourself too seriously.
Yeah.
But there's it's a dance. But
so Sadhguru, do you know who he is? He's also another spiritual teacher, like guru for sure.
Is he like Buddhist?
I think he's Hindu, perhaps. Okay. But he's more just about he's from India, I believe, an incredible spiritual teacher. And I've had the opportunity to hear him speak twice, but one of his speeches I was able to see, he talks about that, and he has this beautiful way of painting it in a very lighthearted way where it makes you laugh, because he just says that of like, all you people take life so seriously, everything's so serious, and I'm so serious, and he's like, that's actually your first problem. You know, that you make everything, he's like, serious just means you're like dying. The way he says it is just amazing.
You put things into perspective. Like, we're sitting in this warm room I just had a cup of coffee. I have a water right here if I'm thirsty. If I'm hungry, I know I can get food within 2 minutes or 30 seconds. I'm sure there's snacks that you have in that back room.
Yeah, I got you.
Like, all of our needs are totally met for survival. I mean, a lot of the problems that we have in life, quote unquote problems, are just situations. A lot of them self-created.
Yes. I loved that. That was a huge lesson for me with him, was just like, don't take life so seriously. So I love that you bring that up. I kind of want to come back a little bit, rewind to your transition between, you work for a big corporation, a tech company, I think you mentioned, and you were already in probably not the best mental health state, and you were very unhappy, perhaps doing some of this specific task or the role. Just take us back through that process of when you decided to come and start your own little world in this big world, which is Core Revive.
Yeah. Do you want me to start at the tech company?
Wherever you want to.
Yeah. So while I was there, I realized that was not something I was passionate about. That was the beginning. And I think that's good for everyone to look at is, this is something I'm actually passionate about. Does this does it make me happy to wake up and do this every day? And if not, then I'd get out of there. Find something that does make you happy. I went from having an income to $0 coming in. And I remember that week that I quit, I had also lost a lot of money in the stock market just because it was during COVID. And I thought that my name was Michael Stock Day Trader Alisa. Like I was just like, I was like, oh, this is easy. And it was like a casino. I was just having fun with it. And then all of a sudden that week I lost a lot of money. And it happened to be the same week that I quit. And I remember that being such a lesson for the fact that I was so happy. I felt like this huge burden was lifted off of me. I had no income, just lost a lot of money in the stock market. Didn't have anything coming in, but I had my project that I was going to work on with Core Revive, that fitness community. But other than that, there was nothing that someone would think like, oh, that's like Michael's doing great, from the outside world. but inside, I felt so good. Yeah. And so that was a big tell for me that I was doing the right thing.
Absolutely.
And doing something that was for myself and getting out of a place that felt draining. So.
Yeah. How long did it take you to realize when you first maybe had that thought process attached to the emotions of this isn't clicking, this isn't my place, to making the decision of actually leaving? Like, what was that timeline?
Oh, too long.
Yeah.
I think when I first started, I knew that it wasn't my strength. I felt like I was just a fish out of water, but I'm very competitive. And so I tried my hardest to like push that competitive side of me and just tap into that, just to muscle through this. And that wasn't enough. And I stayed in there for 2 years.
Yeah.
Muscling through, grinding. Yeah. Feeling like I was just not tapped in enough, and that I wasn't being competitive enough, and that I wasn't wanting it bad enough. And so not only was I doing something that didn't make me happy, I was beating myself up over it.
Because you weren't, yeah.
Because I wasn't succeeding.
Yeah, you weren't at the levels you wanted to be.
Yeah, and another lesson: the only way to really feel that is to do something you're passionate about.
Yeah.
Then you'll be obsessive over it, and you'll show up with a smile, and even when it's a bad day, or you wake up and you're just under rested, and you'll still find a little bit of joy out of that thing because you actually do like it.
Yeah. So if I ask you now, so Michael, what's your passion? What would you say?
My passion is people. And I've found that I've been better able to connect with people and to help people when I've taken care of myself first. And so and this is something I'm still learning and working on, but my main priorities are self-care, my physical health, my mental health, my spiritual health. And then from there, I've been able to better help other people and have more meaningful connections with them.
Yeah. It's like you have to put the mask on yourself first before you're able to help other people.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's so important. I'm so glad you bring that up. Most people don't do that. And then they end up feeling similar ways, and it's like, no, you have to take care of you first. If you're unhealthy, and I talk to my team about this all the time, health is actually the most important thing in life.
Yeah.
If you can't be there, if you can't show up, then everything goes down.
Being miserable or being unhealthy, that's not serving anybody.
Right.
And so a lot of the times we think that we need to self-sacrifice to help those around us, where we'll be much better off helping them by taking care of ourselves.
Yeah. So what a good lesson. So, okay, so you were miserable, you stayed there too long. And what made you actually like jump on it and shift?
It was just feeling I had that it was exciting. It was something that I wanted for some reason. Why was it a gym? That came because my first step towards self-care came from physical health. And again, at the time, actually, when I started it, I was still under the misconception that physical health alone would make a person happy.
Yeah.
Just, in my very naive mind, obviously we know that that's just
That's one piece of it.
a piece of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And even every day, like that is the piece that I knock out no matter what is something physical, like, whatever type of exercise it is. However, yeah, you definitely need to take care of your mental health and your spiritual health. I think those three need to go together. And like I said, I know plenty of physically fit people who are miserable.
Mm-hmm.
And that was something I found out. I got physically fit, had the six pack. I was modeling in fitness commercials, and I still would have these lulls. It wasn't as frequent, it wasn't as often. And I had more tools available to me to work through my troubled times. By the way, I think it's important to mention that I don't think I had a chemical depression. And I recognize that for those people who suffer from, chemical imbalance, that things may be very different, and that medication is a great thing to seek out. But yeah, for me, it wasn't just physical health, but that is when I started Core Revive, and I wanted to share that with everybody. I still think it's a great first step, and it has to be the first step, is taking care of yourself physically. Because once you start doing something for yourself, investing in yourself, that definitely helps your mental health.
Yeah.
You start to love yourself more.
Well, and it makes sense. Like Tony Robbins always talks about the physiology and how that is the way you can change your state in a second. And so when you tell me all of these, your ideology behind it, like to me, it just makes sense because of that. Because I think sometimes people are like, oh, Tony Robbins events, you're just jumping up and down, like it's crazy, whatever. But there's like a whole philosophy behind it that for you to be able to change your state, you have to move your body. Mm-hmm. And so I love how you even talked about the walk of when you go out in nature, connect, and you're out there moving your body, it really does release these endorphins. I mean, it's scientifically proven, right? Yeah. And so everything you're saying like totally makes sense. It just started to make you feel better regardless. And so that physical movement is so important. And so I do feel like it's such a huge key. It can't be by itself, like you said, but it is a big component of that, like feeling happiness and joy and an everyday routine.
Absolutely. One of my not a close friend, but I've known him for years. We did some business together 3 years ago, maybe, 4 years ago. And he told me then that his wife was severely depressed and had severe mental illness. And that had sent him down this pathway of working with neuroscientists. And he did tons and tons of research and read every book and article that you can find on mental health. He said that he has not found any medication that creates the same chemicals for people that the human body does when you exercise, in terms of making you feel better.
Yeah. So I love that was your first step to get out of like such a dark place. And I do really respect the fact that you were brave enough to face all of those inner just demons and blocks that you had, and how important that is, and how I just want to really touch on this for a second, the fact that you were numbing yourself and you recognized it. Because I feel like so many people, we tend to do that, whether it's numbing yourself through an alcohol or drugs, or numbing food,
work,
yeah. You know, like it's Brene Brown talks about this. She's actually a recovered alcoholic. I don't know if you follow her or have watched any of her stuff, but she's this incredible leader, and she talks about just that. I mean, she studies belonging, she studies shame, and extraordinary, but she talks about that process, and everyone has some sort of addiction. And it makes sense. People are addicted to their phones. People are addicted to work. I felt that phones. In times.
That was a huge part too.
And
learning to navigate our phones now. Our minds aren't meant to ingest all of the world's problems and everyone's, journals every single day. And that was a big part too of the anxiety and the comparison. So being more aware of, okay, I'm comparing myself to other people, and that doesn't make me feel good.
Have to remember that everything we post on there is a positive thing. And so everyone else on there is going to be posting the most of the time. That's what it is. You're inundated with the best part of their day. And so you're looking at everyone's best parts of their days, or sometimes not authentic posts either. Right. And so you don't know what the truth actually is. So I love social media. I utilize it, every day, but I also am very aware that that is not my real connectivity to life. Right. Yeah. And so, that's super important, but we all tend to default to some sort of addiction. I feel like mine's always been, I'm just addicted to work, and, but when I have had my hard moments in life, it's like, okay, I work harder, because it is a way that I've been like, I'm not dealing with this right now. But I have done a lot of work for my emotional health and my mental health. And I have become very obsessive with protecting my mind and my mindset. But it's an everyday practice, right?
Absolutely.
Every day. What books are you reading?
And you start to build those habits. I think at first it's much harder. Then you start to get those habits in place, and you can kind of train yourself when you feel something creeping up, like this maybe a sad feeling, or for instance, you feel yourself comparing yourself with somebody else, or whatever it is. You start to develop these habits to react in a more positive way to your triggers, and that all just comes from practice and training yourself to do those things
and becoming aware of yourself. And when you're numbing, you shut all of the parts of you down.
Yeah.
When you're not numbing, you're like, you can actually become aware.
When you're numbing, you're just reacting.
Yeah.
Without even thinking about it.
Yeah.
And sometimes I didn't even realize why I was reacting a certain way, what was actually making me feel this way. I wasn't working through that and kind of pinning down, why is my ego mind telling myself this? That's just the ego mind. Okay, I'm going to ignore that. But before I was listening to it, and I would spiral down into these dark abysses.
Yeah, that is emotional health right there. That you become aware of what's going on internally in your body, in your mind, and everything. And you can recognize, okay, why is this happening? Asking yourself questions, like recognizing, what emotion is this bringing up for me? I'm going to face this emotion, sit in it, sit in those moments, even though they're uncomfortable, feel it. And I believe that the magic in it is, like, we're all human beings, and we're all going to always have these type of emotions in our life. Instead of avoiding them, let's feel them. And the magic is just not getting stuck in them.
Do you think women are generally better at feeling than men?
No.
Interesting. Okay, let's talk about this.
I believe that all human beings are emotional. I do believe that women are perhaps more emotional. That's just our feminine essence. That's the feminine energy. But what I really believe is that historically men have been taught to shut down their emotions.
Yes, that's what I mean. I feel like we hear this story that men are supposed to be tough and not feel.
Yeah.
And so the first time we get hurt, whether it's you get your heart broken or whatever in college, I don't know, but we start to tell ourselves, oh, that thing that we were told when I was a kid, yeah, that's true. Men should be strong and not feel.
It's so
And
bad and
we
so unhealthy.
turn off. Yeah, so we turn off our feelings.
No.
And
Yeah.
when I first posted about my depression and anxiety on social media, I had so many men reach out to me and say, that is exactly what I've been experiencing. Everything you just said, yeah, the numbing, the anxiety, the not knowing how to get out of it. I've been feeling that. I feel like men are probably more reluctant. Is that safe to say that in general, men are more reluctant to talk about it than women are?
Absolutely. But it's because you have grown up in a system where that has been the belief of, and it's been something that's been placed upon you since you were a little boy.
Yeah.
But the truth is that being a human being, we're all emotional beings. That is the truth. And actually, all the ladies who are listening to this, I know you will agree with me. There is nothing, we never feel less attracted when a man can actually share a real emotion.
Well, I think a man is stronger when he is in touch with his feelings.
That's exactly how I feel. Like when I'm dating, I'm actually currently dating someone really great. And a huge attraction for me has been that we're both emotionally intelligent and he's strong enough to be able to share something. And that's actually really attractive to me. Yeah. So, but we've grown up in this world and this society that has taught you that it's wrong. And so I'm very passionate about this, obviously, but I feel like these are the conversations that need to be taught to children of, no, actually, baby, it's okay that you feel your emotions. Please feel them. And actually teaching people how to navigate through those emotions. Like, it's okay that you feel anger right now. What is anger trying to tell you? Yeah. Is it to create better boundaries? Okay, so let's create better boundaries and let's move on, right?
And isn't that amazing that we're having that conversation, right? Like where we're at today is so much further along than where our parents are at.
Yes.
Some of the frustrations I had with my dad is a great father and was growing up. But as I got older, I realized like, I was kind of frustrated that he didn't do this or that. And going through all of this, I've become more forgive or understanding. And not that there's anything to ever forgive, but more understanding that he didn't have these tools. He didn't have these conversations with people. He didn't have podcasts he could listen to and seek help with untangling his thoughts. He was just a man all alone.
Another reason, like, to feel blessed that we are able to consciously and collectively move into a better space of being able to really share the truth.
Yeah, and people right now, everyone can talk about it.
Yes.
Whereas before it was like, oh, you have anxiety. Like, can you imagine saying that on a date? Like, oh yeah, I suffer from anxiety. Like, oh. It'd be like,
oh, I don't want to go there. I don't want to date this guy.
Yeah, like, oh, well, there's a nut house. Like back when they called it a nut house. Like,
I agree.
Yeah.
I was actually
in reality, every human being has anxiety. Like that's why the human race has made it so has built buildings and got out of caves is we didn't feel comfortable. We're like, oh, I got to do something. So we started domesticating animals and hunting and doing all this stuff. Yeah. So we all have it to some level. Yes. And it's okay to talk about it. I'm so glad that this day and age we can talk about it. We can seek out resources for help and work through our stuff. Yeah, and that we have more tools available to us. I 100% agree. There's this great book called "It Didn't Start With You," and it's fascinating. It just talks about the different generations and how pain or trauma just continues on down just biologically. It's really fascinating. Yeah. And here's the deal though, like we now get to destroy that old system and that old cycle. Like we have the opportunity now in our day and age where these conversations that are being had, we actually have the opportunity to end a cycle of unhealthy trauma like that has been passed on generationally so that we can actually disrupt it and like change the future of our children. Yes. I like that.
That to me is like real impact.
Mm-hmm.
And how beautiful that is. And I know we're running out of time because I feel like I can continue talking to you about this for probably like hours.
Yeah.
But
Part 2 coming.
Part 2 for sure. But I do want to end on you talking to us a little bit more about Core Revive and what this whole thing is about. You have such an awesome tribe. You know, like that community is amazing. And when you have those bigger events too, and how everyone gets together, I love it. But tell us a little bit more about your little baby.
Yeah, I wanted a safe place for everybody. I wanted to be the cool kids table. However, everyone is welcome. Everyone's cool. Like I said, there's something about everyone that I really like. Um, Creating that culture with that community has been really fun for me. And I realized that little things help create it. For example, let's say someone is before class is talking about somebody else that wasn't there that day, and it's not the most positive thing. I that well, for one, that is something that I always, even in my personal life, I always try to limit that as much as possible. So I'll try to tactfully navigate those situations to where that doesn't happen. And so that nobody else ever feels unsafe. If they're not there, are they talking about me? You know, I never want anything like that. I want everyone to feel welcome, and included and part of this. Fitness is a part of it. I value wellness over fitness, which includes your mental health, your spiritual health, meaningful connections and relationships with people who you care about and who care about you. So I've been very thankful personally for an environment such as working out. When I experienced this growing up, for some reason, when you train with someone, you feel closer to them. And at the end, you're both flooded with endorphins, and you feel a little more vulnerable, and you can talk more genuinely. And maybe there's something also that goes along with suffering next to somebody, right? Like getting your ass handed to you in a workout next to somebody else.
And this absolutely happens, everybody.
And you're both just fighting through this, and maybe that creates trust with that person. I don't know, but knowing that person will fight through in hard times to do something. I don't know. I've heard different
I love the metaphor. I think it's awesome.
But that has been so fun for me to create. I love those relationships, and those people, everyone that I've been able to meet through that has absolutely affected my life for the better. I feel happier on some of my sad days, or low energy, low frequency days, however you want to call it, when I recognize that I'm feeling a little blue. I really look forward to seeing my people, seeing my tribe.
It's your community for sure.
And I don't mean that as in mine, it belongs to me, but I feel a belonging there with them. So
beautiful.
It's been a really, really fun journey, and I'm looking forward to continue to grow it.
I'm excited to see the next step for Michael. So if someone is interested in checking this out, where can they reach you, or how can they sign up for a Core Revive class?
Absolutely. Well, so first week is free. Come try it out. It's I would say pace yourself in those workouts. But you can find us on www.corerevive.com or on Instagram, core.revive, at core.revive.
Awesome.
Yeah. So the schedule is all on there, and on the Instagram page, you can see an example of what our workouts are like, and some of the people that you'll meet there.
Yeah. Everyone I've met has been, like you definitely create that space, and everyone I've met has been just like so amazing, so kind. You do feel like a sense of belonging, and so I like the tribe.
That means a lot. I'm
I've
happy to
created
hear
some
that.
really good friendships from that,
Yeah,
from your place.
And I love that.
Yeah.
I love seeing people who meet at Core Revive or meet doing these workouts, hanging out outside of it.
Yeah.
That is so important to me, and that makes me so happy.
You're a part of this connection. Yeah.
Thank you.
I love it, Michael. Well, thanks so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
Sharing your story, sharing your thoughts, and what an important conversation to have. Do you want to share anything to end our episode today? Any advice or anything that?
Yeah, for anyone that is struggling, hang in there, and there are better days ahead. I was at a point where I was, like I said, I was afraid to see where my gun was. If we're having a very frank conversation, I wanted the pain to stop that badly, and didn't know how to make it stop. And I've read a lot of things on those people who suffer from suicidal thoughts. It's not that they want to die, so they just want that pain to stop.
Wow.
So anyone that is out there that is struggling, there is help available. It helps to talk about it, to open up. Please do that. Please don't hold it in. Good job for still being here. I know that in that state, every day is a win. Every day that you stay alive can be a win. So, and it absolutely is. So keep fighting, seek help, know that you're loved. Again, like Nadia said in the beginning of the episode, feel free to reach out. And you have 2 people here you can talk to, and there are helplines available. And I'm sure you can put those on here as well, provide those. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Michael. And know that life is very much worth living, and that there's so much beauty if we can just get out of funks and deep holes like that, and you start seeing that there's just so much to live for. And I know you've been in those really dark spots, Michael, and like getting to experience the highs of life again, like it's so worth it.
Yeah. One of my favorite quotes, well, not favorite, but I just read this yesterday. Stop asking why and start asking, stop asking why and start saying, wow.
Oh, I love that.
There's so much to be grateful for, so many beautiful things in this life to experience and to see.
Yes. So thanks, everybody. We love you, and we will see you next time.